Hello, Admiral Thrawn here, making a quick video on Let's Modding. Basically, this is when I just basically record myself working on the mod Age of Petty Kings and show you some tricks and stuff. One sec, let me just make sure that you guys can see the mouse here. Okay, good, yeah, you should be able to see the mouse. No, I don't want to exit Fraps, I'm recording with Fraps. Anyways, yeah, so here I'm going to be working on making some shields for the area around, it's in the north, it's the area around Oldcastle, and the different houses are going to be House Locke, House Woolfield, and House Towers that I'll be messing around with. So basically what I have here is I'm using GIMP right now to make the shields, and I've already got the sigils for these three houses here, Locke, Woolfield, and Towers. And basically I'm going to be using this base that I created here as, well, a base. Basically I have multiple different layers here in my GIMP project, which you can make them visible and invisible with this. Layer 1 is basically it's a layer that includes this sort of wooden texture here that I pulled off of this image here, as well as this sort of central shield bump thing, you know. And then layer 2 is the edge around the shield and all this this wooden edge with like the rivets and stuff. Layer 3, I don't actually use layer 3, and then layer 4 is a background that's basically a solid color if you remove everything else. So basically, so now that I have this, what I'm going to do is first off, I'm going to get this color here from the locks, their sigil, and change the background. And see, basically all I've done is change the background to be, I can delete this layer, here. I've changed the background, the solid color background from one color to the other, and that basically, once you add the other layers, it looks like an actual shield. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to, basically, another important thing here is that you can, you don't have to be perfect on the mark with this, because here, I'm going to basically make this be like that, okay? So yeah, I have all this growth stuff on the outside here, but I actually don't care about that because I can select this layer, use the magic wand, set the threshold really high, select basically everything that's, not that high. So basically now I've selected everything that's inside of this shield rim here. I now hit Control-I to select everything outside the shield rim, change to this layer, and delete. And basically, yeah, I just trimmed out everything that's not inside the shield from this layer here. So basically now I have a good old thing. Let's, yeah, that looks fine, yeah. Maybe I'll try and make this a little bit straighter. I don't think it's going to matter on the campaign map when people look at it. But let's see here. That should be a little bit more straight. There. Yeah, I think that looks better, yeah. A little bit more straight. There, that looks good. Alright. Yeah, much better. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm going to delete... one sec. I'm just going to text. Or not. Did I get a text? Yeah, I got a text. Right. Anyways, now I'm going to basically pull out the actual sigil here, the like the locks thing, like the different keys. I'm going to delete all the extraneous textury stuff. I'm going to get rid of the these lines here because they don't want them to get in the way of things. I'm not going to have the keys be exactly on the lines like they were in this image. And so, yeah. And then there. Get that out there. Get that out there. Yeah, I'm using the eraser here. Generally speaking, there's a lot of great tutorials out there for GIMP and Photoshop. Photoshop is generally agreed upon as the more professional of the two, but GIMP is free, and I'm a cheap bastard. And plus, I mean, really, you can pretty much do anything in GIMP you can do in Photoshop. It's just a little bit different. So, I mean, if you want something like Photoshop but don't have the money to, you know, get Photoshop, or don't want to spend the money, just go for GIMP. I mean, it's basically the same thing. I mean, or in my opinion at least. I'm going to probably get a lot of angry comments from Photoshop devotees claiming that it's not the same thing at all. But in my experience, at least, I've never really had a problem where it's like it only works in Photoshop and not in GIMP. Plus, the multiple windows thing, I'm not going to blur it like that. The multiple windows thing is actually really nice for modding because you can have multiple windows open and also do a bunch of other stuff too. So anyways, I got these keys now, good. Now I'm going to position them up nicely. There. And there we go. So now I have a shield here for House Locke. The colors are all right. So now all I have to do is merge this down, and I have a texture. And so voila. Now, as for what to do with this texture, so there's a couple things. First of all, you've got to have your diff here, which is basically the attachments folder for this faction. So basically, this region here, like for these units and all, they all refer back to this file here, a Locke diff. And it's going to include shields from House Locke, House Wolffield, and House Towers. House Towers being a house that was in the north for a long time, but got wiped out later on. They mentioned them in World of Ice and Fire. In fact, a lot of houses from this mod come from World of Ice and Fire. But either way, House Locke is going to be the main house in this region, so they're going to get 3 shields here. There. And let's overwrite to save it. Yeah, these shields here are from a different region and all, but I'm basically using the same base file, so that way I don't have to basically realign all the shields to line up with the correct locations, and also I'm just overwriting the different shield each time. So there I have that Locke diff. Let's see here. What was I about to do? Oh yeah, and then also what's important is I'm making these quote-unquote house buildings where it's like it's a building that exists in every single settlement, and it contains all the recruitment and whatnot. And the UI is that of the House of Shield. So here I also have to do the thing where, and yeah, computer's giving me some wackiness. Anyways, so I'm going to have to resize this to line up with it. Scale that. Line her up, and export it as Locke, export, and then this guy here, 55. Line him up and export. They look really tiny here, but when you actually see them in game, they look just fine. Locke, export. So I'm just gonna quickly show you what the new shields here look like in game. So okay, let's first off start up a game here. I'll just show you what it looks like right now. Single player. Westeros campaign, House Bolton. Yeah, it's all sort of a work in progress right now, but it's coming along. Yada yada yada. Starting up. And okay, so right now, House Locke's sigil here looks like this. Which honestly doesn't look that good in my opinion. I mean, it's like the texture here that I used for the texturing looks pretty muddy and kind of gross, and it's all in all just looks, in my opinion, kind of bad. Also, like the edges are really gross and funky. So yeah, not good. But I think you have to restart the entire game to make this work. But let's try and see if we can get it to work without restarting. We take the Locke there, copy those new building, the new building UI there. We data UI Southern European buildings, copy and replace. Bolton. This actually probably won't show up like the new buildings. I may have to restart the entire game. But yeah, basically you should see the new UI there for House Locke. Hopefully. If not, I'll restart. Yeah, and it works. Sweet, awesome. So yeah, it looks much better. Yeah, you see, like the wood texturing I think looks a lot nicer than the old texturing. It doesn't have the edges aren't as funky and weird, and yeah, all in all, it looks pretty good. Then I'm just going to do this for all these new houses over here, and it'll be nice. One thing that I forgot to do just now, yeah. Oh, by the way, so you can hit Control-Z, and that'll basically undo the merge downs that I did here to be able to copy the whole thing. And so basically, yeah, you can just keep reusing the same file. I should use a darker gray for this background. It doesn't really matter right now. Copy that. Delete it. Because basically, right now I'm using a white background here, and it looks fine in the UI, but on the battlefield, white comes out terribly. It looks really bad. So there. I should use a darker gray for the actual battlefield sigil and whatnot. The one for like the UI sigil for the houses is fine, but on the actual diff here, you see a darker gray is going to come out a lot better. Because basically the light reflection is kind of weird in Medieval 2, and so it'll just like basically look like a flashlight if you have anything that's pure white. Or even anywhere close to pure white. In fact, even this will look kind of funky, but it should be fine. Yeah, so anyways, that is the process for creating new shields for houses. Yeah, that's basically all I'm going to record right now. That should be about it. If anyone has a request for me making a Let's Mod about some other aspect of making a mod, just send it in and all that. I'm doing most of the stuff anyway, so I might as well talk to myself while I'm doing it, and talk to you as well, assuming that anyone watches this. And yeah, that's it for the moment. Oh, one quick thing, if you actually watched the end of this, I might as well give you a quick preview. The Stark rosters have pretty much been finished, so I'll just give you a quick preview of that. Let's do House Stark versus House Bolton next. So House Stark, the unit cards are not done, of course. I will save those till the end because I don't want to redo them if I change units around. And these Bolton units here are pretty much done as well, except for the House Locke's recruitment region. So for the Starks, they're going to have two recruitment regions. The Winter Moors around Winterfell, and then the Wolfswood up around Deepwood Motte. I'm gonna give you a bigger preview with like a giant, huge battle with like the North versus some other faction and stuff. But for now, I'll just give you a quick thing. So we got the Wintermoor levies here. Wintermoor heavy cavalry and all that. Wintermoors are basically around Winterfell. It's like Winterfell, Torrens Square, Serwyn, and then the Wolf's Den down in like around where White Harbor is now. Then you have some Wolfswood axemen, which are basically sort of infantry but with axes. And then you have Wintermoor warriors. Basically, the Starks are the most sort of quote-unquote Andal of the factions in the north, and they have pikemen, unlike anyone else in the north. And they have these swordsmen and all that. So basically, yeah, the Starks are sort of unique in that regard. They have pretty mediocre archers, though. The Wolfswood hunters are pretty good. Wintermoor archers really aren't. They're just sort of there because, you know, the Starks had archers. They have Cranogmen here, which are, they sort of serve as, they're missiles, they're skirmishers. They also have the sort of three-pronged spears as their secondary weapon as well. Got some Wolfswood Levy as well, and then finally some Wolfswood Riders, which are basically sort of skirmishers. So yeah, the Starks are the only northern faction with pikemen, but I figured they had them in the Battle of the Green Fork in Game of Thrones, so it makes sense for them to have them here. The Dreadfort, these are just sort of the Dreadmoor units that are recruited around like the Dreadfort. The Boltons will also have other units from the south, like around Oldcastle, but those haven't been finished yet. They'll have these axe throwers, which are basically like they throw axes. They have regular axes. They're just pretty badass. They have these sort of pseudo pikemen here, where they aren't actually pikemen. They're more like halberds, but they're spear halberds basically. So kind of like short pikemen. And then they'll have their heavy cavalry here, which, yeah, they're pretty good. They'll have just their regular levies, and then they'll have their skin wearers, which I posted a preview of these a while back. But they are basically, they are a fear unit. They cause their enemies to be more afraid. Basically, they wear the faces of their killed and like fallen enemies on their faces because they're fucked up and they're Boltons. So yeah, that's about it for that. Yeah, just a quick preview here. You're going to see all this in a full, bigger preview later. But anyways, that's it. Admiral Thrawn signing off.